So good, Megan. Welcome to Spark TV.
Thank you, Danny.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. I feel like it's going to be a good one. We've already just been chatting and had to do we should hit record. Otherwise, we're going to sit here and talk all day. So let's start out by telling everyone who you are and what you
Can
do.
we? Can I ditch the glasses? Because for some reason I'm
Please.
steaming up.
Oh my God, go for it. It's, total cash vibes here. You do
I'm
whatever
just
you
like,
like.
yeah, I'm like, oh, that's not gonna work very well. Sorry.
No, go for it. So let's kick things off by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
I'm Megan Ferguson. Hate using the term that I'm a founder and business owner. I like to say I'm me, which ironically is the initials of my business as well. So I'm Megan Elizabeth Coaching, the founder and coach. And, for me, I like hate all those roles that we put on ourselves when we say who we are.
Mm.
So it's like, I'm me, I'm energetic, adventurous, love systems, love my little people, my nieces and nephews, love adventure, all of those kind of things. And also a founder of my business, which is all about, helping other women to find their true selves and live their life and their business their way.
I love it. And you know what? You're probably the only the second person out of like over 200 interviews who have actually said, well, I'm actually a human and this is all about me. However, I'm also this business owner. I think it's so hilarious that we do. I know I'm so guilty of this. Totally identify as our businesses. Like
Yeah.
our whole identity is wrapped up in being a business owner. And it can be really hard to separate the fact that you are an actual person outside of your business.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've probably like been juggling this year, particularly moving into my own business. And I think I kind of come to this realization with my career. And as I was saying to you earlier, like leaving a career and like having that whole, for so long, my identity was wrapped up in my career. And
Wow.
it was all about that. And it's like, yeah, it's been unpacking that and kind of letting go of that. So it's like, who am I? And not the roles I play. I used to be, oh, I'm a crazy auntie. I'm a supply chain optimization specialist, all of those things. And it was all the role. I like to think of it as the roles I play, not
Mm.
who I actually am.
Yeah, I love that. So, and it's interesting, so you talked about being a coach for other women to help identify their true selves.
Hmm.
And I think it almost is like what you're talking about, actually having that moment of realization, like, who am I? What roles do I play? You've kind of gone through a bit of a process. And I think it's a process that a few of us don't go through. We don't think about it like that. We just get so wrapped up in the building of our businesses. And yes, we look after families and we do all of those things, but we probably don't stop and take a step back and evaluate, where our passions do lie. What
Mm.
what's someone going through when they first come to you? Like, where are they at in life usually?
I've had a few there's always different. And for me, I'm very much about meeting the person where they're at and helping them through that. So, I've helped clients through where they're in a relationship and there's, it might not be the right relationship and thinking that it was and they wanted to keep it but then, after working with me, realizing it wasn't and going from like being caught up in that drama of that relationship and holding on to that to actually uncovering who they are and what they want more. I've
Mm.
also worked with one lady that had came to me around health issues, and it was really around she wasn't doing those things that she needed as well.
Mm.
And it was even helping her to work through grief that she had been holding on to from losing her dad 50 years earlier.
Wow.
And it's working through those things. I've also had one client that came to me around her career. She wasn't happy, but she didn't know where to go. And, it was seeing that, oh, this is just, I've always done this thing and not being able to see that there was other avenues and not knowing what she was passionate about. So like trying to work with her and help her to uncover those things so she could move forward as well. So that's where I liked, and I know this is probably controversial to some, what some coaches say you should do.
I love it already.
My approach is very much like I'm an adventurer. I love adventure, as I said. So it's kind of like, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And let's go on an adventure to see where you can get to. Because this is the thing to me, like life's an adventure. And quite often we try to control and we say, oh, we want to get from X to Y. And we get so fixated on that journey that then we shut down all the other possibilities. And it's like, well, how do we
Definitely.
actually just start to be going, okay, here's where we are, here's where we want to go, and we just take one step at a time to see where we end up
Yeah.
and open ourselves up to those possibilities as well.
That's so cool. And, it's really interesting that I think as business owners, we kind of do that for our business. We're like, okay, this is the goal. This is how I'm going to get there. Perhaps sometimes we don't really know why we chose that goal. Like sometimes the
Mhm.
goals are a little arbitrary. But I love the idea of doing it, more broadly for your life as well. And having someone like you, I love that you just called it an adventure. Like, that guide on the adventure of business or life or career or
Yeah,
relationships, somebody that can kind of hold space for you while you are figuring out that journey. And I love also what if the opportunities come up along the way? Like
mhm,
sometimes we do get so fixated on that thing that we wanted to do and we forget to enjoy the adventure along the way or even try things that may be better for us.
yeah. And I think this is the thing, like a lot of the goals we set is just the things that we thought we should have in
Yes.
our lives because of what society has told us that we should have, the career and all of that. And, for me, like I've even debated that life coaching and business coaching. So I came into coaching from a life perspective. I was in a really bad place. I'd lost my sister to suicide. I
Wow.
had thrown myself into career and travel and everything to not deal with that.
Mhm.
And I ended up in a really toxic relationship where my self-worth was at the lowest I think it's ever been. And that
Yeah.
was the point I reached out to a coach. And working with a coach, it helped me to finally deal with losing my sister and also to see all the other things that I was doing in my life that wasn't actually resourceful. And, I never thought I'd become a coach. I resisted becoming a coach for a long time because it wasn't the career that I had. It wasn't, I wanted to be a supply chain manager for a business. And the funny thing is, before quitting my corporate job, I actually could have applied for that dream role. But by
Yeah.
that stage, I'm like, actually, that's not what I want to be. And this year, it's been really funny stepping away from that corporate environment. I was kind of like, okay, do I want to, like, I've been toying with that life coaching, business coaching, all of that kind of stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
actually, I want to do both. And, some people might say, no, you need to focus on one. And I'm like, okay. But the thing for me is, and I can remember even saying this a few years ago in the corporate space, when we talk about life and business, the one thing that's in the middle is us as a human being.
Oh, I love that so much.
And
Yeah.
this, I think we forget that,
Mm.
and it's like making sure that our goals are actually our goals and not somebody else's. And making sure that the way that we get to those goals is actually how best suits us as well. Because, we quite often in business, it's like, okay, to build your business, you need to do XYZ. And I was like, well, if that's not the things that are right for you, then no, you shouldn't do that. It's
Yeah.
not going to actually make you happy. Having a business isn't going to make you happy. And that's where, for me, it's really about being able to help people embrace their humanness, as I call it, and actually go, okay, how do we help you as a human reach the things that you want to do?
So, how do you figure out what you want? Like, so it's just a really interesting thing. So you've made me think about goals.
Yeah.
And so this will actually be coming out. This recording will come out in January.
Hmm.
And so I know it's that time of year where there's so many people who are listening to different podcasts and they're probably reflecting and planning for their year ahead. And I'm interested if there are things that we can do to start to get towards what we do really want. Like, how do we
Yeah.
actually not pick arbitrary goals that perhaps is somebody else's definition of success? Do you have any tips for somebody to kind of hone in on what's right for them?
The big one, which I think most of us would have heard, is why. What's the why for that goal? And I think this is the time, it's taking that time to actually think about our goals. I know for me, I used to just probably write a goal down and, didn't really think about it, but it's like understanding why. And if you're not sure, it's like writing the goal down and then going, what's the purpose of that goal? And even just keeping on asking that question to make sure that goal is actually yours. The other thing I would say is I think we put so much on our pressure on ourselves to figure it all out in January. Now, for me, January is actually a tough month emotionally. It's the anniversary of losing my sister.
Mm.
And it's not a fun time of the year. And to me, we
Yeah.
put so much pressure on having to know exactly what our goal or what our vision looks like. And the thing is, it's trial and error and allowing it to change over time. I think we can set a goal. And, for example, at one stage, I wanted to run a half marathon. Now, me running a half marathon at the time was probably because I loved running because I was running to escape the emotions that I hadn't dealt with.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was running because that was the one time that I didn't think because I was just running. So
Yeah. Wow.
I think it's really also sitting down and go like having that reflection of, is this really my goal? And or is this goal that I'm putting in place because I'm avoiding something? You know, am I just keeping myself busy with all the goals?
Yeah. Wow.
I think I'll confess that so many times I've written down a whole heap of goals and there's no way I could have achieved half of them. And it's funny, even goals that I set probably 5.5 years ago when I started my being coached myself,
Yeah.
some of them I'm still working on. And
It's okay.
that's okay because and this is the thing, I think we do it in our businesses, we do it in our lives. We go to trying to set up everything to perfection.
Mm,
But it's really an evolution as we go, and we can. And I've always I've always ended up in continuous improvement roles.
yes.
So for me, it's like, how do we continuously improve ourselves rather than going on January 1st? We have to have our goals written down. We have to know exactly what we want in life, and just giving ourselves some I don't know, room to actually just play and go, is this goal something I want? And if you're
Mm.
writing a goal down and it doesn't light you up, is it really something that you want in your life? And being okay that those goals may change over time.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned the idea of continuous improvement because it is really that, like, we write down a goal and it's like, well, I should achieve that tomorrow. And it is we think that something's going to explode in our business. We're going to go viral. Like everyone's going to discover us. Like it's like we always expect the transformation to just happen overnight. And that
Mhm.
once we've written down that goal, yeah, the world will just align and it will happen.
Yeah.
But that can be really overwhelming. Like if you're somebody that's like, I want to make $1 million, it's like, cool. But like looking at that post-it note that says $1 million, it can actually be super overwhelming because like, well, how the
Mm.
fuck am I going to do that? You know?
Yeah.
So I love the idea of how can you actually break it down
Mm.
and just keep getting a little closer or a little better every day or doing a little tiny thing in towards that goal. And then, like you said, playing with it and just seeing if there's something else that comes up along the way.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like there's so like my analogy is and because I love hiking. So it's the top of the mountain. And look, there is a mountain. It's one of the highest in Southeast Queensland that I've climbed numerous times. And every time I look at it, I think, what am I thinking?
Yeah.
Like, like you say, it looks so overwhelming looking at the top of that mountain. And it's just actually about taking one step at a time. And the thing is, when you, especially the first time you climb that mountain, you don't know what every single step looks like. And, we've even been with a guide that has actually taken us down a wrong path and we've had to backtrack.
Wow. Yep.
And this is the thing, and every time is different. So it's like, how do we break it down to feel less overwhelming? And this is actually something I saw and got frustrated by a lot in corporate. And I see people do it. And I know I've done it myself. It's like, oh, I want to do all these things in my life, so I'm going to do them today. And
Yeah.
then I get overwhelmed and I sit there and I do nothing. Or
Yes.
I try to map out what that
That's
next 12
me.
months, or I try to map out what the next 12 months looks like. And then I going, oh, that's so overwhelming because I don't know.
Yeah.
And in corporate, I saw it being that, there was a lot of talk about innovation, AI, all of that kind of thing. And it was like, oh, we wanted all of these systems in place straight away. Or, there was this solution that that we wanted to put in place. And we wanted to go from here to here in an instance.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, well, you don't have the basics. And like the business I was in, it was like, we don't have fundamental things like a standard process. So you can't necessarily then go and automate something because we don't even have a standard process that we know how do we actually do this job. So,
Yeah.
and this is the thing, it's like, where are you at? And actually just taking those first little steps towards that rather than going, okay, I have to work out. Yeah, and we might know some of the big ticket items, might know a few things, but it's like, how can we, break it down a little bit so that we don't actually end up in procrastination because we're just overwhelmed.
I love that. It is just the best advice to think about things in bite-sized pieces. It's just, yeah, it makes such a huge difference. Like you think about all of the things that we have to do when we put that big goal in front of ourselves, sometimes it's just so, it just seems so out of reach.
Mhm.
But I love that approach. How
The other one, sorry,
no,
the other
go.
one I'll share is, and this is a realization for myself this year that a coach I was working with helped me to realize, was the impossible deadlines we put on ourselves.
Oh my God. Yes. I
And
know
that's the
I
thing,
do
like,
that because I've got a whole list in front of me of things that haven't been done.
yeah, and we put those impossible deadlines on ourselves, and I was like, but who is? And I can remember I did a post after having this realization for myself. It's like, if we died tomorrow, nobody would care. Like, that to-do list would not be important to us.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, and this is where I'm very much, because of, I've gone through significant life loss in my family. I've lost my dad and my sister within the last 10 years. And it's
Mhm.
like, that has really showed me the importance to get out there and live. And this is why I do
Yeah.
love adventure. I do love travel, because it's like so many of us are stuck in all these never ending to-do lists that we don't actually get out and live and do what we want to be doing.
How do you get past the guilt? So I have a really hard time with if there's something on my to-do list, I feel guilty that I'm going out and living my life and enjoying myself and not being a slave to my desk. Do I just have to
How do
slap
I
myself in the face and get over it?
I think it's also, and one of the things I've been playing with recently, like, is going out and enjoying yourself. Does that actually give you more energy to come back and do that thing on your to-do list?
Yes, I like that.
So it's like, and if you're beating yourself up while you're going and doing that thing, you're not going to enjoy it. But it's like, if you just go and enjoy that thing and then come back and go, oh, okay, cool. Like last week, I nearly didn't go to the beach. I was just like, I just need a morning at the beach. And I nearly got into that guilt of, oh, well, I've got all of these things to do. And then I actually still went to the beach. And the ideas that I came up with and the reflection that I had and the energy that it gave me actually helped me. So, and I think this is the thing, we get so caught up in that to-do list that we're not doing the things that actually bring us energy.
Mm. I love what you said about all of the ideas flowing to you while you're at the beach. It's so funny. Like, if I read, I'll often get really good ideas. Like, it actually takes me forever to read a book because it's like my brain actually just activates when
Yeah.
I'm reading. So I have to keep stopping and like writing things down. But I barely do it. Like, I love it and I get all of this clarity and all of these ideas. But the idea of like sitting down for an hour and or even a half an hour and reading, I just
Yeah.
go, "Oh my god, I should be doing other things. I haven't got back to that person. Everyone's mad at me. Rah, 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 I need to make dinner." All of those things. But you're so right. When you do them, you actually get so much more benefit than just knuckling under and
Yeah.
working more.
And I think that's the thing. It's like it's understanding ourselves. And I used to have a term with one of my team members that it was slowing down to speed up.
Oh, yeah, my husband
And
says sharpening the saw or something. Yeah.
and it was kind of more that stopping to reflect. And I think
Yeah.
that with our goals and stuff, actually taking that time, whether it be at the end of the year or it be any time throughout the year, because I think so many of us get caught up on the new year kind of stuff. It's like you can
Yeah.
set goals and you can review your goals any time of the year. There's no rule about that. But it's like even just slowing down and being and doing something you enjoy to then get that inspiration. Because,
Yeah.
like, for me, if I sit at this desk and go, okay, I'm going to come up with ideas, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And I know for some people that might work. For me, it does not work. And this is where I say, like, for me, like, my term in my business is your life your way, your business your way.
Oh, I love
And
that. Yeah.
it's really helping people to understand themselves so that actually can do that. And
Mhm.
for me, I'm like, okay, I actually need to schedule more beach walks into my routine because it is where I get the most inspiration. It's little things like, okay, as much as I don't like the whole microphone that I carry with me and all of that, I need to take that because I do record some really good videos, but there's always background noise and that's just annoying to try to remove and all of that. So it's like understanding yourself and understanding the ways, like I've always been someone to kind of find the easy way. And I think this is why I end up in business improvement. I don't like doing things the hard way. I think we've been so conditioned to do things the hard way. And it's like, how can we understand ourselves enough to know what's our easy way of doing things? Like,
Mm.
how does it flow for us mostly? Like, is it that reading a book is where we get all our ideas? And if we actually do that each week, that actually helps us in our business and brings us more energy as well.
Oh my God, I think that is so incredible. I was even just as you were talking about that, I was reflecting on I did schedule half a day and I was like, I'm gonna do my vision board and journaling and planning and blah 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 blah. And I did it, but it was interesting. So over the last few days of recording podcast interviews, I've had so many people talk about their word for the year and all this, and like we've been unpacking different ideas and even like a YouTube video that I watched, I was like, I've just been getting clearer and clearer and clearer on where I want to
Mhm.
go. So it's almost like, you need time and you need space and you need inspiration. You're so right. You're not just going to sit at your desk and, oh, everything, I have all of the solutions to all of my life problems and it's done. It really is that culmination of all of those little things that give us that mental space and clarity.
Yeah.
So so important. I love
I
it.
think it's like building in that space in our everyday so that we actually have
Yeah.
that. Like, I know for me, like this year, as I said to you earlier, like quitting corporate and probably going from very structured, basically not having a lot of time, being at work 8, 9 hours a day, plus travel, all of that kind of stuff, and not having the energy because I was doing a lot of things that didn't actually bring me joy,
Mm.
to having a year of space. And
Yeah.
that has at sometimes been really uncomfortable, and probably gave myself a little bit too much space at times. But I also needed that from a burnout recovery kind of point of view. And like I said to you, I'd underestimated how long that would take to actually
Yeah.
recover from being burnt out mentally and emotionally because of everything
Mhm.
that had happened, both work wise and also in my personal life. And it's also given me a lot of clarity, and I'm glad I've done that. And it's for me, it's also continuing to make sure I give myself that space to align myself to make sure that I'm doing what I want to be doing. I think there's so much information out there of how we can run our businesses, how we can improve our lives, and we actually then forget to listen to ourselves as to what's right for us and get to
Yes.
know ourselves. And, like I said earlier, like for me, I used to keep busy to avoid the emotions.
Yeah.
And to be honest, this year has been a tidal wave of all the things I hadn't dealt with completely have come up. And, it's allowing ourselves that space to, play with different ideas, to not just be about, oh, we need to get this done now, because quite often it then becomes about, oh, do.
Mm.
But then we're not doing the things that we actually need to be doing. Um,
Yeah. And that
and
will
like,
actually get us to our goals or
yeah,
make us feel joyful. Sometimes it gets
yeah.
trapped in that I'm being productive if I'm crossing something off a list, and then that's it.
And it's like that doesn't actually, and like I like to think about it as intentional action. Um,
Love that.
because it's like, and it doesn't have to be big. I know I've heard massive intentional action. I don't like massive intentional action because I feel like that can make it scary.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's just like intentional bits and being okay to play and trial and error. And I've always been someone that's probably had that more innovative mindset, the problem solving and all of that. And this is what I loved, even when I was still in the corporate environment, because it was, and I was in a male dominated industry. So
Mm.
it always made it interesting. It was very much about that do. I loved when we went from working from home because I could be at my desk, and then if I was trying to problem solve something, because when I need to get away from my desk to problem solve, I could walk downstairs, I could walk down to the back, my little back courtyard and things like that, without somebody watching me going, you got to be doing
Yeah.
you're not being productive. And I think this is the thing, we've been so conditioned to, being productive is doing.
Mm.
Whereas it actually takes that reflection and go, what should we be doing? Is this the right idea? Is this the right solution? And quite often we go, oh, okay, here's a solution. We'll put that in. That's what we need to do. But we don't actually take the time to reflect if that's the right solution. I did a video the other day that was kind of like the problem is not usually the problem and the solution is not usually the solution. Because, and this is something I saw time and time again, especially working in business improvement, people would come with solutions and I'm like, well, what's the actual problem? How's that going to solve it?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, that's actually not the solution. You're just putting a band-aid over it, or you think that's the solution, so let's go and do that. And it's like, actually, it's not, because
Yeah.
it's actually not going to solve the problem you're trying to solve. So that's where I used to, come at it, what do you think that's going to solve? And kind of defining that problem to be solved rather than what is the solution.
I love that. And sometimes I think we just do things because other people are doing them. And we kind of go, well, they're successful in our minds. We don't ever
Mhm.
really know. And they're doing that, so I've got to do that. And then it's like, then we go, well, why aren't I hitting the goals that I want to? It's like, because you're just copying someone, and you don't even know if it's working for them, right? Like half the time we see things on social media and people make these outrageous claims. There's no way to tell if it's real or not. So
Mm.
if we're just following along, you're so right. We might be solving a problem that solution that we thought doesn't solve that problem, or it's not even the problem that we had.
Yeah. Or it's just not our way of doing stuff. And this is something that I've really, I think, lent into, and I kind of got into the human design space as well,
Oh, love
which just
that.
opens up a whole new can of worms, but it has helped me to understand myself, but all it and an even deeper level, but more so accept myself, and that some of the strategies that I was told to do,
Mm,
that I went, ugh, I don't like that. Um, it's there's a reason for that. It's just not my way of being, and it's not something. And if I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be from a very forced energy. And at one stage, I was really, really frustrated because in the coaching space, it is looking at what are you blocked. And yes, there can be sometimes that we are blocking ourselves from doing something that we need to be doing. but it's also, is this the right thing for us? And I kept on getting this question, oh, well, what's your block? Whenever I said, oh, that doesn't feel right for me. I was like, no, it just doesn't feel right for me. And
Yeah.
it's like, it doesn't feel like my way of doing business. And this is where, for me, and I'm still uncovering this, and to me, it's a work in progress, it's continuous improvement. It's like, what is my way? What is my way of getting my brand and my message out there rather than what is somebody else's way?
Oh my God. It is just so good. I love it. It just feels like such a beautiful aligned way to run a business, but it also feels so practical, like it feels like, you know, why wouldn't you take the time to figure out what you actually want in life? Why wouldn't you then, experiment and play and experience along the way in case there's something that you don't even know that you love yet? And then why not choose action steps that are so in tune with how you like to operate on your way to achieving said amazing life goal? I just think it's so awesome. And oh my God, we could talk all day, but I always love to wrap up these podcasts with one last piece of advice. So, reflecting on your time in business, what
Mhm.
would be a piece of advice that you would give to another woman on her business journey?
Keep it simple and trust yourself. Trust your intuition of what is right for you.
Wow, that is so powerful and yeah, so important. Thank you so much, Megan, for sharing your wisdom and your journey and your insights. And yeah, I just know that everyone tuning into this episode, yeah, it's really going to hit home for them. So I'm so grateful for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.